The Jewish community center Amia has been splendidly rebuilt on the same location, behind heavy steel doors, reinforced walls and concrete bumpers. The Jewish community is fenced in and divided over the investigations of the attacks. Anna Weinstein is back at work as head of the archives. She has become desperate about the lack of progress in the case.
If there's no difference of putting a bomb and not putting it, of being guilty or not guilty, if there's no difference at all in a society where you have to have justice, where you have to have a limit between wrong and right, it's terrible.
The Liu family has been reduced to two. Son Agustin was killed in the Amia bombing, and the mother, Norma Liu, who survived the bombing, passed away recently. Like many of the survivors, she became ill.
Ella se empezó a morir de a poco el día que lo mataron a Agustín. Y ya desde ese día seguía viviendo por él y por mí. Salió debajo de los escombros, pero seguía luchando por nosotros.
Norma Leu was the founding member of the activist group Memoria Activa. Jorge Leu is carrying on the fight on behalf of the families of the victims, but he has become disillusioned with his fellow citizens.
Y mucha gente hace eso. No lo ve, no le pasa, no le toca, no le importa. Creo que quizás es una actitud de la gente. No sé si yo culpo a los argentinos porque estoy dolido porque perdí lo que más quería en mi vida acá en la Argentina.
Rosa de Barreiros is still haunted by the memory of a son who was ripped from her hand.
Yo lo llevé de la mano a la muerte. Tal vez si lo hubiese dejado en casa, hoy lo tendría conmigo. Sé también que yo no soy culpable de que hayan puesto una bomba. Pero su mamá lo llevaba de la mano por esa cuadra.
Andrea siempre decía que quería, cuando sea grande, quería vivir en un lugar donde haya muchos pájaros y mucho verde. A veces uno dice murieron 86 personas y es como que la gente se olvida. Esto no permite olvidar. Esto es un testimonio de lo tremenda que fue la bomba que pusieron acá el 18 de julio de 1994.
Criminal investigations in Argentina are conducted by federal judges. Judge Juan José Galeano is handling the Amia case. From the start, he was seen as too close to President Menem, and he's become, like so many Argentine judges, a controversial figure. Judge Galeano's investigation is supervised by two federal prosecutors.
It is right to say that there was not political decision from the beginning to solve the case. Why I say that? Because, for example, the government haven't set up a police force 100% dedicated to solve the case until 1997.
Probably there was lack of interest. That was seen as, that was a bombing that happened in the Jewish community, and perhaps there was not the will to try to get deeper in this.
Was President Menem implicated in a cover-up of investigations?
I'm sure he was trying to hide something. The way he behaved, he was trying to hide that he knew about police corruption, and because of political compromises, he wouldn't touch that. And he very clearly would not have altered that scheme that worked so wonderfully for him just to make justice. Justice hardly brings you votes.
It's not unreasonable to believe, with their history of harboring Nazis, that they wouldn't have had some hand. Some local people didn't have a hand in it, starting with the top.
Washington ignored the Argentines' bungling of the investigations. The United States and Argentina attributed both bombings to Arabic terrorists. The FBI confirmed this in a report to the U.S. Congress.
The Argentine government has not brought charges for the 1994 bombing, but the evidence points to Hezbollah. The attack was a virtual duplicate of the 1992 bombing of the Israeli embassy. So the U.S. government officially went on record saying it was Iran and its surrogate Hezbollah. So there's no doubt that that's who's responsible.
Both Hezbollah and Iran would have to top the list of most likely suspects. Indeed, in the 1992 bombing, this followed only by weeks the Israeli assassination of Moussaoui, a leading Hezbollah figure, and indeed Islamic Jihad claimed, the Lebanese branch claimed credit for it, which we know is the phrase or the group name used by Hezbollah for operations. We know that Hezbollah is indeed very closely tied to Iran, that it receives its arms, a lot of its money from Iran. So I don't think it's a great leap of logic to make that connection. Again, that's very different from proof.
Hezbollah started as a guerrilla group against Israel's occupation of southern Lebanon. Did it retaliate worldwide because the Israelis assassinated a leader in February of '92?
The first attack in '92 against the Israeli embassy was not isolated. On that same, within a 2 or 3 day period, there was also an attack in Panama that killed a large number of Jewish businessmen who traveled from Panama City to the Cologne Free Zone, and there was an attack against the Israeli embassy in London. So this had the hallmarks of a coordinated effort, where, again, I put the Iranian-Hezbollah tie as the key.
But academic experts doubt Iran would have supported a major terrorist attack, at least not in 1994.
It was contrary to what became Iran's policy of trying to stop some of these crazy groups in the society from carrying out these kinds of operations, which ended up hurting the whole country. So overall, there's as much circumstantial evidence against Iran being involved as there is in favor of it being involved. It's something we just don't know, and that's what the investigation needs to show in Argentina. And as far as I can tell, they have botched the investigation so badly that we may never find out.
In May 2000, Israel made the historical decision to give up the occupation in Lebanon.
Argentine operations actually contributed to the Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon. Anyone who tells you that terrorism never succeeds is misleading. Terrorism can succeed. And this was, I think, one of the clear instances, and it will probably become a textbook instance at some point, where terrorism created deterrence, successfully deterred Israel from striking at what was a small armed resistance movement. If you look at the second half of the 1990s, you'll see that Israel was extremely careful not to assassinate Hezbollah's leaders. Israel showed restraint. I think it's because Israel had learned the right lesson about those two bombings that there wasn't a third bombing.
It is only a half-hour drive from this major tourist attraction in Foz do Iguaçu to the three-border area that Argentina shares with Paraguay and Brazil. On the Paraguay side of the border lies Ciudad del Este, a city-town that's a smuggling center. Millions of dollars are made from legal and illegal trade in everything from electronics to guns and pirated CDs. Most of the stores are in the hands of Lebanese. Several of these businessmen are suspected of supporting the terrorist attacks on Argentina and the United States on September 11. One of the suspected Lebanese who moved to Ciudad del Este is Asad Ahmad Barakat. He was reported to be hiding, but we find him at home. He's been accused of supporting Hezbollah, also known as the Party of God.
Eles acá no mandan dinero, nadie manda dinero porque Hezbollah un partido que tiene propia plata de él, que apoyado de Irán, ¿no? Entonces nosotros somos comerciantes acá, ayudamos la construcción de mezquita, ayudamos construcción de escuela. Líbano, un país que salió de la guerra 27 años, ayudamos la criatura que murieron pai de ella, que no tiene quien sustentar. Entonces como comerciante ayudamos de esa manera, mas directamente a partir de Dios nosotros no ayudamos.
Barakat says that all Arabs in this small community know each other. The arrival of Hezbollah agents would have been noticed.
Y tenemos testimonios que nos dicen que los días previos al atentado llegaron personas que estuvieron con personas de alta jerarquía de la comunidad árabe en la zona de Tres Fronteras. O sea que Irán planificó, pero Hezbollah ejecutó.
فلو كان حزب الله يفكر في ضرب في القيام بمثل هذه العمليات خارج الأراضي اللبنانية لقلب هذا الغطاء السياسي من مؤيد له إلى معارض له.
The Sheikh says to have first-hand information that Hezbollah was not involved in the attacks. He also claims that if the Lebanese businessmen here in Ciudad del Este send donations to Lebanon, it is only for charities. But the Argentine investigators believe the terrorists started here in Paraguay with the help of the Arab community. They would have traveled by bus, crossing the porous border into Argentina. A theory American intelligence supports.
What we know for a fact, and it's not just about the attacks in Argentina, but no group can carry out international terrorist attacks without the cooperation of a state, without the cooperation of institutions. And for groups that were, let's go with the theory that they were based up in the tri-border area of Paraguay, and that they traveled south to Buenos Aires to carry out this attack. They had to have the cooperation and support of some people, at a minimum the police.
The investigators believe the Hezbollah agents hooked up with a local connection in Buenos Aires. Together they prepared for their attack on Amia.
We don't know why it was done. We still don't know even who it was done. At least there was a claim, verifiable or not, but there was a claim, and there's enormous circumstantial evidence regarding the Israeli embassy bombing in 1992. Amia remains a mystery.
Upon their arrival, the terrorists would have paid a local connection to purchase a van, a very common Renault Traffic like this one, and load the van with explosives. On the Monday morning, the car bomb was driven straight to the entrance of Amia. The investigation of the Amia bombing had been in the hands of the federal police. They took control only days after the attack happened. In the rubble of the Jewish center, the federal police found part of the engine belonging to a van. The registration of the vehicle led to the owner of the van, Carlos Tejeldin, a convicted car thief and the son of a notorious fascist. He fitted the bill of a local connection. The importance of Tejeldin to the investigation became apparent when Judge Galeano, in charge of the Amia case, was seen handing Tejeldin a document and was heard talking about a $400,000 reward. The judge had ordered that the transaction be taped to have a record for his superiors.
Doctor Galeano, ¿Se puede hablar de atentado?
Ni una palabra.
Judge Galeano denied any improprieties, and he did not want to comment on the fact that the video cassette had been stolen from his office. Did the judge bribe Tejeldin? Right after this meeting, Tejeldin, the car thief, delivered his testimony. Police Commissioner Rivelli had forced him to procure the van used for the bombing. The commissioner and 20 of his men were thrown in jail. They had it coming, was what many people said.
Juan José Rivelli era uno de los policías más poderosos de la provincia de Buenos Aires. Movía millones de pesos, fue un asesino, es decir, que ordenó varios crímenes por negocios, por dinero que se movía. Sin embargo, yo no estoy seguro que haya participado del atentado contra la AMIA.
Here, in this prison, Police Commissioner Rivelli spent years waiting for his trial. Rivelli, who was trained in the United States in counterterrorism, denies any involvement in the bombing.
Por más de que durante 4 años casi sostuvieron en la prensa, está probado de que Rivelli, o sea, se llevó la tráfico de manos de Tejeldin y la entregó a los terroristas para que a su vez explotara en la AMIA. Que eso es lo que sostiene la imputación en firme del doctor Galeano y los fiscales. ¿En qué cabeza cabe de que si dicen de que yo soy tan inteligente con respecto a que he ido cubriendo todos mis pasos, cómo voy a dejar yo un número de motor en una camioneta de que a las 24 horas están sabiendo por qué manos pasó y demás?
Is the commissioner angry because he was set up to be the fall guy? He will not say. The dark side of the streets in Buenos Aires is ruled by police mafias. Commissioner Rivelli's department, in charge of investigating car theft, took a cut of each stolen car. Rivelli was known to operate one of the largest crime organizations, even handling large-scale shipments of arms and drugs. But Commissioner Rivelli's department was not the only mafia around.
Bingo.
Other police departments were in deadly competition. These agents, carrying thousands of dollars in their pockets, are federal police. The same federal police who were in charge of the AMIA investigation. They may have decided to take arch-rival Rivelli out of business by framing him.
They are involved in prostitution and in robberies and car robberies and all those things. They are very, very corrupted. And of course, they are involved in all kinds of violation to human rights still now. They really torture and they kill.
The police mafias operate with impunity because they have political protection. The judicial system can be counted on to look the other way.
The main problem that we had was to investigate policemen with policemen.
Los servicios de inteligencia y la fuerza de seguridad no nos han aportado elementos de prueba como para seguir una pista en serio.
Another problem what we had during the investigation fue the disappearance of evidence that we have gathered a few days right after the bombing. Mainly tapes of telephone that was taped by the police, around 60 cassettes of tape recordings disappeared from the investigation, and now we don't know where they are.
The same cassettes have disappeared in the federal police and in the Secret Service.
Dr. Claudio Lifshitz resigned from Judge Galeano's investigative team. He claims that the Secret Service knew beforehand about the attack on AMIA. The Secret Service did not prevent it and had covered up their deadly mistake with the help of Judge Galeano. The judge did not want to be interviewed about his colleagues' allegations. The judge has been indicted for bribing a witness, but remains in charge of the AMIA investigation, traveling around the world in search of the international connection.
This case is really much more important than Tejeldín and the police from the province of Buenos Aires. They are just a very little beginning, but now we are really very, very far from the truth about the local connection.
The local connection. Every time Laura sees the police, she wonders if these men were the ones who killed her husband. Many in the police and the army have carried on the murderous legacy from the last dictatorship. It was Dictator Videla's personal triumph. Argentina was the center of the world's attention, hosting the World Cup in 1978. At the same time, the military and police terrorized the streets. An estimated 30,000 Argentines disappeared.
Nosotros solamente queremos saber dónde están nuestros hijos, vivos o muertos. No sabemos si están enfermos. Años que estamos así.
Mi hija estaba embarazada de 5 meses cuando se la llevaron.
Santo, santo, santo.
The reins of power in Argentina are by tradition firmly in the hands of the Holy Trinity, state, military and church. The state violence was sanctioned by the Cardinal. Neither the White House nor the Europeans were willing to put real pressure on the Argentine junta to stop the killings.